Hey guys. Alright, I don't know what you can see here, but now I have this. Ta-da! And I have this, which isn't a complete, that's a half. So I don't think I'm going to use that one. However, I'll probably use this one. Now, the only downside with this one is that they're plug-ons, so I'm going to have to make sure that I make sure they're tight, and I'm going to have to use some of that rush check that somebody told me about. Now, who can that somebody be? Somebody. So, now I also have a plate that I'm going to put over that, which I have to cut. But let me come over here and find it. And this will go over this once I get it cut. And I'm going to leave it just a little bit longer because I want it to bow under so that it'll reflect off. So that's going to be something I got to work on. So this is going to go in here. This way I can run my lights across the front, have plenty of room in here, and plug them in. I'll run my power line in and connect it. I have 1, 2, 3 separate powers here that I can use. This is one set on both sides, so there's 4 lights I can hook up to this one. That'll be one switch. These 4 will be another switch, and this one will be a third switch if I need it. So we have 3 switches there, but I can run up to 4, 8, 10 lights if I wanted to. Now I can also break this up because there's a little jumper in between there on that one and on that one. If I take those 2 screws out, I can eliminate that jumper, which will separate every one of these by pulling out the 2 jumpers or 1 jumper or whatever it is I want to do at that point. So anyway, I was talking about a solder iron the other day, or yesterday maybe. Let me get rid of this cup. You know, when it comes to solder stations, I look for a few things. One is, I want to make sure that it's going to supply the wattage that I need. So I like somewhere between something that's going to variable between maybe 20, 25 to 70, 65 or 70. That's just about what you need for most of your soldering. If you need anything bigger than that, get the gun out. I want to make sure that the tips are going to be readily available and local. You know, not so much in my town, which would be great, but at least somewhere in the state or in the country, and not that I have to wait months for the tips to come in. And I want to have something that I know has been around for a while so that the tips don't become obsolete on you. The other thing I like is the cord going from the solder station. Well, you can't see the cord here from where that's standing. But the cord coming from the station to the pencil itself, I like it to be flexible. And sometimes when you go cheap, it's stiff. And when it's stiff, it works against you constantly. Especially if it's going to be sitting out in the garage. Because even if it gets warm, it's not going to be warm enough. Alright? They'll be stiff even in the summertime. It's almost like a cheap microphone with a stiff mic cord. You know, when you pull on it, it's always fighting you. You buy a good, like an Astatic or something, the cords are flexible, they're rubbery, they move with you, you know, and that's what you want. You want it to where the tips are going to be easy to replace and not going to be coming loose every time you turn around. Some of them have little set screws you got to use. You know, and I don't care for that, because over time, heat, hot, cold, hot, you know, those set screws tend to screw up on you. So you want one that has, in my opinion, let me get it again, a collar on it, either here at the tip, so you can unscrew this, or down here, so you can unscrew it. So this here way the tip goes on, you tighten it down. I like the ones that have a variety of tips, not just one or two. I like real fine tips, with the heat being distributed to the very tip. And that's where the better ones come in over the cheaper ones. All right? Like for instance, that tip is fine, but it's really not fine enough for some. I mean, that's fine. I can use that, not a problem. The one that's in there now is something like this one, which is a little bit bigger. Now this one I had to actually sand it down with the belt sander to get it sharp enough to do some work. And you got to do that, that's fine. However, make sure that you sand it down evenly. Otherwise the heat is going to go to any part that's uneven and it's not going to go towards the tip. And then they have the larger ones, and then they have the chisel tips and things like that, and they all come in handy. Alright, so you know, so that's another thing. Are the tips going to be readily available to you? You know? Yeah, so and there's different kinds of tips, but most of the time if you stick within a reasonable amount of brands, you should be okay. Now there's a few of them out there, and I said it before, I'm kind of partial to Weller. I had a Weller station when I had my store, and I said this before, I've had it for years. I go in, I turn on the main switch that turns on the whole bench, including the solder station. I turn it on at like maybe 9, 10, 9:30, always around that time. It'd be going all day to 5, 6, 7, sometimes 9, you know, depending on how long I'm actually there for. And who knows if, you know, it got turned on and off in between me not being there. You know, like if I leave at 5 or 6, the store was open until 9 or 10. Well, somebody may have to wire a microphone or do something like that. You know, one of the employees, so they would turn on the solder station. You know, so you know, you never know. Now, with that being said, with it being run, you know, on at least 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, sometimes 6. Well, most of the time 6 actually, because I was open 6 days a week. And, well, actually, I was open 7 days a week, but I was there 5.5 to 6 days a week. And you know, well, it was always going, but I went through a tip, meaning just a tip, maybe every 2 to 3 months, some sooner, some less, you know, depending on how much you're actually using it. Are you pushing down hard on it, you know, which you really don't want to do. You know, let the solder do its thing, let the iron do its thing. Don't try to break it off ahead of time. But you know, I got some time out of it. Now the solder iron itself with the cord, I want it to be attached to the station to where I can unplug it. Almost like a CB radio mic plug. Now they have 2 different types of plugs. Let me find a mic here for a minute. I'm sure I got one around here. On CB radio, you more than likely know what I'm talking about. You have what they call the 5-pin bin. It plugs in. It's got 5 pins, it plugs in, and it's got a little, if you're lucky, it has a little button here with a little lock that kind of locks it into place. But most of the time, forget about it. You're pulling on the mic and the cord comes unplugged, because the only thing holding it there is that little thing, so it'll want to do this a lot and your connections are getting shot, and it's a 5-pin plug and so on. Pain in the ass to fix. I like the 4 or 5 pin, but I want it to go in, and I want the screw-on collar. I want to be able to plug it in, screw it on, so I have this whole thing holding it on, not just a little piece sticking up to lock it in, because those are not going to stay there forever. You know, now it doesn't make a difference a 4 or 5, that, you know, it's whatever it is. The iron, if it has auto shut off and all these safety features, it may have a 5-wire plug, but I still want it with the collar. I prefer metal, not plastic. Plastic's okay, you know, but just be careful with them. You know, they have the screw-on plastic ones, you know, but just pay attention to them. But you want the cord to be soft and flexible. You want to make sure the cord is going to be long enough. You know, an average cord is going to be somewhere around 3 feet, you know, 3.5 feet. I don't know what I have here. This is probably 1, 2, 3. This is about 3.5, maybe 42 inches. But this is a cheap one. It works. However, the cord is real stiff and it's a pain in the ass because it's always getting caught up on something and it doesn't just hang, you know. So I'm looking to replace that one. Now that's a Weller. You can buy expensive ones, you can buy cheap ones in any brand, you know, and it's like anything else. You buy cheap, you got to make up the difference someplace, so you're going to get the cheap cord, or the one that may not have an easy plug on it, maybe just wired directly in, as this one is. But I tend to like the Weller. Now there's another one out there, I've said it before, I'm trying to visualize it. See, if I can't see it, I can't pronounce it. It's Hakko. You know, and that's another halfway decent one if you look. They're going to have a number of varieties, but there's certain things you want to check to see if it's going to work for you. Do I care if it's digital? No. You know, I'm not working with stuff that's that sensitive where I have to worry about digital and something else to burn out. All right, something else to stop working. Do I need it to start up really quick, like a T12 or a T15? You know, when you turn it on, it gets hot within, you know, 10 seconds. That's nice, but I don't need it. You know, so, you know. Do I like to see what the voltage is or the amps or whatever? Well, those are bells and whistles. Do you need them? You know, I mean, it's you got to think about it. How stable is it? When you go to touch something to solder, does it regulate itself and stay on the temperature that you had it set at, or does it drop down drastically, you know, and now the solder's kind of sticking because you got to wait for it to build up while it's being there, you know. So you want something that's going to be stable while it's there. If it drops a degree or two, that's one thing, but when it drops, they usually come right back. You're only going to find that in some of the better systems. So, now the other day I was watching, because I'm looking, I'm going to find something. I don't care for I had that big cheap knockoff that had a solder iron. It had a 1.5 amp 9 or 0 to 12 volt power supply. But again, it's only 1.5 amps, so don't count it as being a power supply to run things on. It's more or less for testing. And then it had a little heat gun attachment to it, which was nice. However, from the day I had it, I had nothing but problems with it. If you look at some of my older videos, well, actually, I had it still when I first built this place, this addition, and I think within the first year, I finally decided I'm done because it worked when it wanted to. I found a bunch of cold solder joints in it. I fixed it. It worked again for a while. It stopped. I mean, it was just one thing after another. The safety shut off on the heat gun, stopped working. Finally, I just said, you know what? I'm just going to scrap it, and that's just what I did. I just pulled it apart, scrapped it, got rid of it. All right? That was one of these solder stations, and, you know, I think it was like 60 bucks or 70 bucks, somewhere around there. You know, one of those China pieces. Now, there's another one out there that I was watching on the net the other day, because when you start looking, next thing you know, things start popping up. You know how that works. And this guy was doing a review on this station that really caught my eye. You know, and I was saying, wow. And it was only 40 bucks. But it was on that Chinese website, Bang something, whatever it was. But he started talking about it, and it was a T12. It had that automatic, you know, to where it actually, you know, the temperature wouldn't drop more than a few degrees, and it would come right back when you go to solder something. It had all the bells and whistles. It had everything on it. I'm saying, how can this be? You know, I mean, here we are. We're talking, you know, $40, $50. Now, he did say if you want the exact same model that he had, you had to click the link on his website, and it'll take you to that particular Bang, whatever it was, website, and then you would get that particular one at that particular price. So it was almost like there's a deal being made, which is fine. But they have, because I went there, I wanted to see, they have that particular station with tons of different names on it, with tons of different types of irons on it. All right, so I put in there, how hard is it, and where is it? What's the availability on getting the tips? Well, he hadn't gotten back to me yet. Now, he's a big channel. You know, he's like 55,000 subs. But somebody on that channel did get back to me and said he has one similar but with a different, you know, gun on it, a different pencil, but the same brain with a different name on it, and he's having a problem getting the solder tips. So I don't know, you know, so that kind of starts to turn me off. I don't want to spend $40 for a solder iron that's going to have all the bells and whistles, and once the solder tips that are with it go, I'm going to have to fight and read and investigate to find out what model I have, because they make tons of different models with tons of different tips on them, you know, and is a tip available, and then I got to buy it in China and wait months for it to come here. So I really don't want to deal with that, you know. As nice as it was, you know, sometimes the temptations take us with the price. I'm still going to lean towards the Weller or that H, whatever it was, a KKO or whatever, and to see what I can find reasonable and yet offer what I want it to offer. And again, it depends on how much you want to spend. I don't want to spend $150 if I don't have to. But I don't want to spend $40 and then have to spend another $40 every time I need something like a solder tip, you know, or I can't find anything, you know, and what am I doing? I'm replacing solder stations every time I turn around. I don't want to do that. So if it comes to the point, I'm thinking I should be able to find something that I want with a soft cord, tips that are readily available, the tip that has the collar on it instead of the Allen screw, a tip where the pencil unscrews from the actual unit, so if you want to replace that whole pencil you can, you know, without replacing the whole unit. Veritable, I don't care if it's digital or not, as long as it's veritable. All right, and if I can get something for, you know, without the bells and whistles, but to do what I wanted to do for 80, 90, 100 bucks, that's kind of where I'm looking. Do I want to spend 150? No, but you know, I can't justify it, but yet I will if I need to. So, you know, it's like anything else. You really got to buy what's going to fit your budget, the best that you can get for what you have, and what is it that you really need, you know. I know that I've always had a Weller and I've never had a problem with them. Even this cheap one over here. The only reason why I'm thinking I want different is because I don't like the cord, you know, being attached. I don't like the cord being stiff. You know, there's just all these little things with it, you know, and I just don't care for that. So, but that's where I'm at, guys. That's where I'm at. So if you're looking for solder irons, kind of just look around and think about some of these things. The cord is a soft. The cord will unscrew and unplug from the station. Are the tips readily available, and how many different tips do they make? And do they make substitute tips from other companies? because your good stations, a lot of companies will make tips for that particular station. You know, is the cord long enough? At least 42 inches would be good. You know, something that's variable. You know, 2025 to 65, 70, and everywhere in between. Something that when you start to solder something on the board, you know, the temperature will stabilize really quickly so that it doesn't just drop down, you know, 10 or 15 watts cooler than it's supposed to be, you know, or temperature wise, and then come up slowly, because that's just going to slow you down. So, but again, you know, look at them. You'll see a lot of things out there with the term T12, T15. Take a peek at some of that stuff, get an idea. And then when it comes time, when I buy one, again, I'm not going to go out and jump at one right away, because I have one that is working. But when I do, naturally I'll let you know what I'm buying. But if you're looking to buy one right away, you know, start doing your homework. That's all I can tell you. Hey, Tuck. And I'm not saying Chinese stuff is cheap or shit. It's just that I want stuff that I can buy and replace parts for that's been around a long time. Not somebody that says, let's make solder irons today. Let's put 100 different names on them with 100 different features. And then next month, well, okay, let's make automobile parts. You know what I mean? You know, well, I got to fix my solder iron. No, we don't make them anymore. You know, so... Hot Tuck. Anyway, it's going on 4 o'clock, guys. I'm done here. I'm going to let this dry, and I'm going to call it a day. So I got to bring you down here because I'm tired of reaching up. It's killing my back. I got you kind of jammed up here on a tripod, believe it or not. Okay, you're back down here with me. Alright, so anyway, here's where I'm at now that you're down here. I got this cut. I got a plate over here I got to cut to fit on that. I got the rubber to seal it so water won't get in there. I'm going to bring it down, so this is the front of the van. So when I'm driving, the wind is going to be blowing against this. So I wanted to make sure when it blows against it, it blows down and away. All right? And then I got to get a couple of plugs to put in here, because I don't want that there. That's going to start going howling and making noise, and I just don't want that. And that's